What's going on YouTube? Zero Lead here, and I'm back again with a new video, episode 63 of the Disco Era U.S.S. Enterprise tutorial. I just want to thank you very much for tuning into today's episode, and if you haven't, please don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button helping me in supporting the channel. I can't thank you enough for that. And today we have about a 19-minute video. We're going to be doing some more detail on our engines. We want to try to flesh them out a little bit more to match how they would look on the show. So really what we need at this point, sometimes I love to do this because it helps to get some detail. We need a model of the Discovery. So what you're going to want to do, if you want to go on Google and find your own pictures, just go on Google and type in Discovery Enterprise model. And just look through the pictures. You should be able to find several pictures for whatever you want to use them for. In this case, we're focusing on our engines. Because great thing about a model is that it's unpainted and we can see a lot of the lines essentially naked without having any color on them or anything. And what we're going to be focusing on is this area right in here. So we can really kind of get a shape for how this needs to be, and I can compare it to how it currently looks right now. We're not going to be making a huge change here. We kind of have what we need to start with, but we're going to have to build this part out here and have it come in together right there. And then we're also going to do some work on the inside engine as well. I believe after we make these changes will probably be the last time that we're going to be doing anything on the engines. And I am going to keep the screenshot up for a lot of this build today, because sometimes when I'm building, I do like to have a picture side by side just so I can look at what I'm working with or what I'm trying to make it look like. And this is a great reference picture to go with. So you can see I'm starting right off my middle point in the sides, and I'm going 3 out. I deleted the 2 on the end. I went back 1, going at an angle. We've got a gap in between, and now we went 2 back, and now we're cutting down again. So we're literally building this piece out right here. We kind of moved it back just a smidge. And the reason why I'm slightly moving this back, I've talked about this when we were building the front of the engines, that I didn't like. It basically, when we try to transition this over into Minecraft, it pretty much gives you like a cross or like an X. And I didn't like how that looked on the front of the engine. It didn't really look like a dome. So we had to tweak it to make it work within Minecraft. So you can see I'm going along with my pattern here. I'm extending my gray block out here, and we're really just going to be going down the length of this double-sided gray pattern that we have right here. But right now I'm just trying to get the look of it right. So I'm doing a little bit, zooming back out, looking at what we have right here, and seeing if that looks close enough, or if I want to tweak anything else to it. Now, the reason why I'm not building it into the ship right now is, and this is another thing I do like to do, I like to build on the outside of the ship when I'm making a change like this, because I'm not committing that much to it, essentially. So if I don't like what we're adding right now, we can just delete what we're adding, and it hasn't changed any of the overall look of the ship. But if we like it, it'll be a little bit more work. We'll just have to go in, delete what we're adding, and then make sure to add it right underneath it as well. So you can kind of picture what I got going on here. There's a reason I'm stopping right here, because I'm literally building this part right here, because you can see this transitions down and it gets narrower and narrower as we go back. So now I'm just literally going to repeat that same process again, taking the very middle, cutting up at an angle, going back 2, and then cutting up again and going back 3. Excuse me. And then we're going to hit another cut and count this out with me, because I do this slow enough. I don't do it super fast, so you can stay with me on as far as the pace. I'm not going to count these out, but it's pretty slow. Should be able to pick that up no problem. But for whatever reason, while I'm doing this tutorial, I don't mention this as quite often anymore, but I apologize for this. Something I'm going to make a point to mention more. But if you do have questions regarding these tutorials, or if I'm not being specific enough, or maybe you're stuck, drop a comment below. I'll try to see what I can do to help you out. I'm usually pretty responsive in the comment section. If I don't get to your comment, chances are I'm either getting ready to answer it in a video, or I've already answered it in the comments section. So if you're looking at this specific tutorial and I did something, um, and you're stuck on it, check the comments section, because you never know. I may have already answered that question. Um, but I think for the most part, I've been pretty good as far as explaining things and why I make the decisions that I make and kind of how I go about it. So I think we've got enough to go off with the screenshot, at least for this side of it, to get this detail in the front here. Um, I'm pretty happy with how that looks. So what we're going to do is now we're going to transition it into the ship. So literally everything we're going to delete, we're going to make a point and literally just add it right underneath where we're deleting. All right, that's looking good. Now you could delete two and just add as you go. I'm just deleting them now. I decided to go a couple more back, I think, on this one, but I'm bringing it back forwards. This way it matches what we just had. Because I don't think we need to have this part come back super far, because it doesn't on the side of the engine. And we want to give that illusion that, it has that same kind of transition going on as far as the thickness goes. But at the same time, we don't really have that much room to work with right here. But I think this design, it's not spot on with the picture, but I think it's close enough, and it matches what we currently have without having to redesign the front part right here, and just going with the idea of keeping this dome in the front intact. So that's really why we're moving this piece back just a little bit. And I don't think it looks bad right there. I think it looks great where it is. It has it kind of maintains the retro TOS feel to it, as far as how the engines were in the front, that bubble that they had, because they didn't have anything built on them either. They didn't have like parts protruding in them in all four sides, kind of like to make like an X shape on them. Um, but I think this looks pretty good. So now I'm going to hop back on what we got going on here. We're just working on the lower side right now, deleting the access, and then we're going to go back, and then we're going to add in our light gray line. Now let's do the front. And now we got to do the right side engine. So you can see I'm doing two at a time. If you feel comfortable that you can do that, go for it. But if you're not so confident that you can do both sides at the same time without making a mistake, just do one at a time. All right, perfect. So now let's bang out this lower half. I actually deleted one further back than I should have on that side. Oh, no, that was right. Looks good. I thought I did. All right, we're looking good. So we just have one side left. And we got a couple more things to do to the engines before we're done here. But I think this extra detailing, this is really going to be some of the finishing touches on the engines, just to help bring them to life just a little bit more than what they currently are. I think after I add this on, there's really not much else that I can add at that point. And I'll start getting to the point where it's overkill. And that's something you want to be careful of also. You don't want to add too much to the point that you've got stuff literally just basically crap piled on top of each other just for the sake of having it on there. Add stuff on gingerly, and sparingly, little by little, like we've done for this whole tutorial, and just take a look at it, add it where it's needed. Because I think that this was one of those cases in the front here. I think it felt like it was kind of plain. So that was really the main reason for, on top of the fact I wanted to make it look a little bit closer to the picture, but it looked a little bit plain. So now you can see I'm going in on the inner part, this tube part right here, and I'm getting rid of the access gray, and I'm just literally maintaining our cut. So you should have something that looks just like that. Nice and clean. And I think that looks way better than what we had. And just that little change right there really helps sell this version of the Enterprise. And we're going to go right to this one and stop and do the same thing here. This way we maintain our cut right there. We go back to our white concrete. Let's fill in the holes. Yeah, now it's looking good. This is another thing I talk about too when I'm doing these ships. Sometimes, I mean, you got to get to this point before you can start doing extra detailing like this, because you're not always gonna know what you need is what I'm getting at. And just as you're going and you're build on your build, checking it out, you're just gonna catch things. Ooh, I want to add that on, or I want to add that on. And that just comes into play of looking at the different screenshots, your source material for your references, or the reference that you're going to use for building this ship. Like I said, as soon as we started out this tutorial, the more screenshots you have, the better, because that's going to help you get out all this detail. I've tried my best to, anytime I've used a specific reference, I've tried to pull it up. But at the same time, there's going to be other things that people want to do that I don't. And I mean, to each his own, I said this a million times. There's a million and one ways to build this ship. Just what I'm doing here, it's not set in stone. This is just my way of doing it and what's worked for me. Um, but that's not to say I think mine's the best or whatever. I really don't. But this is just what I think works. So we're gonna get rid of that light gray line there in the middle. I don't think we need this, just in the middle. And then we're gonna replace that with white concrete. We're actually starting to catch up to more of the recent stuff too. I'm gonna have to actually hop on here probably this weekend and get a lot more of the build done, if not complete it, because probably by the end of next week, I think we'll probably be caught up as far as all the stuff that I had originally pre-recorded for this build. So if there's any stuff that you uh, guys and ladies would like to see me do, make sure to drop a comment below. I've still got some stuff planned out on what I'm going to be doing on the interior. Still have to do a little bit of tweaking to the engineering, and we have to complete the other levels in engineering as well. I've got to do the crew quarters. We've got to do the torpedo room. I think I'm also going to do a mess hall. So if there's anything else you want to see me do, definitely now's the time to drop the comments while I'm still currently working on this tutorial. But once I am finished with this 100%, um, I'm going to do a showcase on it. We'll go room to room to actually check out everything that we've done. And then I'm going to be moving right on to the next one. So anyway, now we're going to jump into the last 6 minutes of our episode 63. We're going to get a little bit more detail done on the inside of our engines. This part right here specifically. So right behind this little wedge or piece that we built, basically be adding a bar that's going to be sticking out with a dark gray panel behind it. And I think that they moved those on the original Enterprise. I think that they were in the back of the ship, back of the engines, and on this one they moved them towards the front. I could be wrong on that on the placement on them. They could have been in the same spot. It's been a while since I've seen the TOS Enterprise. And you see how I started right from where that transition line went in. I'm going 2 out here. I'm going all the way back. I went very slow right there just so you can get the placement on this one as well. If you need to rewind that, feel free to do so. We're going to do the same thing on this side. We're going to put one right here and go 2 out. Then we're going to put one right here. 2 out, and then bring the line all the way over and use a light gray block. That doesn't look too bad. It actually looks pretty good. We need some color behind it now. So let's get rid of the white concrete first, right behind this line that we added. And now we're going to fill that in with gray concrete. We can check that out and see how it looks. The only downside to it, I think, right now, with that gray strip being one wide, is that it looks good, but when you start looking at the engines from an angle, you can't see the gray panel like in the picture. So I think for that reason, more than likely, at least this part where this bar is, we're going to have to do the top and bottom maybe in that gray as well, and replace this light gray line here. And we're only going to be doing it for the length of the gray strip. We're going right up to this one. One more. Oh, I'll stop one before. And I'm going to delete one in the front. So there's a gap in between there. We have gray, white, and then, or light gray, white, and then gray. So this way we're not putting a long square. Actually give it a little bit of shape. Because, I mean, there's not much shape that we can do. But, I mean, I think that's better than just a block. You can see I'm just lining it up, making sure that my bottom row is consistent with my top row. That looks pretty good. Now what we can do is, on top of that gray line that we just added, we can we can get rid of this top row maybe. Maybe we'll go back. I don't know. I think what I might do, we're going to switch that back to the white, and then compare that to the left side. There was like 1 or 2 tweaks that I made right here. So now we're going to do this bottom row now in white concrete. I hate when it does that. Sometimes it lags out during placement, and it just... I don't know if that ever happens to you guys and you're deleting a bunch of blocks and it just starts lagging out a little bit. I apologize for that. I think that all my screen captures right up until this point have been pretty good. I'm not sure why it's lagging out right there, but it's kind of picking up a little bit. But regardless, I apologize about that. Okay, that might have been a little much to catch, but we literally just went back to what we had before. We had 3 rows of gray. So we just had the one gray strip in the middle with the light gray on the top and bottom before we changed it. That doesn't look too bad. That actually looks pretty good. Maybe if we went wider, that would have been too much. I think with it being a little bit thinner, that's what's needed. Gives the engines more of a streamlined look instead of, because this is the other thing too. When you start thickening up lines on your engines, you're intensifying like the beefiness of them is what I'm trying to say. And I think that how the engines look currently, they have kind of a streamlined look to them. So we want to try to kind of preserve that where we can. That's why, like the pinstripe with the red on the sides, there's only one stripe there instead of, or two stripes there instead of three, because if we did three, it would have made it look too thick. And that's one of the things I definitely wanted to avoid when I was building this ship. I say it all the time during this tutorial. I wanted to take 5 pounds off the Disco era Enterprise, um, and I think we're there. I think that if this is just my own personal opinion, I think that with it being just slightly thinner, it's spot on with what the TOS Enterprise was. But at the end of the day, they built the ship better this time around. It's a little bit. It's got a lot of the Constitution refits DNA in it, and honestly, I really don't mind it, because Enterprise A at the end of the day was my favorite one out of all of them. So it's pretty cool they decided to do that. But anyway, I think that's going to wrap up this episode for me. We've gotten a lot done, and I think we can now put the check mark on the engines as well. So that's another thing that you can just pat yourself on the back if this is your first full-scale tutorial and you're still building this with me. Uh, Hopefully you surprised yourself in doing this if you didn't think that you can do it before. We have broken this whole tutorial series down for you. We still have a few things to cover like I've been talking about, and don't forget to tune in on Tuesday for episode 64. And you can always catch new Minecraft episodes Tuesdays through Fridays, and also my Starship Evo builds on Mondays. Anyway, that's going to wrap it up for me. Just want to thank you again for tuning into today's episode, and I hope everybody has a happy, safe day and a great weekend as well. And I will catch you next week on the new video.